Hi, welcome to Kara's Christian blog. I'm Kara. You'll have to forgive me if I seem a little off. This is like my millionth time recording this video. The camera is having some malfunctions. So I wanted to start off my blog by putting a video about what it is that I tend to believe so that people who are interested or who might be like-minded would come and know what it is I'm about to talk about. However, when I was doing this, I came across an issue that I realized I needed to discuss before I made any videos about what it is that I believe. So, a little background, I grew up in a non-religious household, and my parents didn't encourage me one way or another about what it is to believe, about God and religion and stuff like that. When I was 17, I converted into a controversial religion known as Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was pretty dedicated to them, and at the time I was pretty happy. Of course, looking back now, I can see some of the issues that were developing at that time that became major issues later on. When I was 22, I was speaking with my now fiance, and after many lengthy discussions about doctrines and practices of the Jehovah's Witnesses, I realized that I had some issues with some of their practices, and I left the faith on good terms, which is very rare. You don't usually leave the Jehovah's Witnesses on good terms. And I started attending his parents' church. Now, when I had left the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was used to this rigid Bible study schedule where people tell you what the Bible says and you believe it. So I started looking for that in his church. I dived headfirst into it. I set up meetings with the pastor, and I tried really, really hard, and I eventually came to the conclusion that I just did not believe what they were preaching. Not all of it. And it kind of hit me after I left his church to try and find a better one that I've been looking for somebody to tell me what the Bible says. I had been looking for somebody to, straight up, this is the truth, and now you can base all of your life on this one truth. But that's not how it works. I didn't grow up in a religious household, so I didn't have that kind of background to prepare me for what it was I was going to believe in the future. But the truth is, it takes time to really think about what you truly believe. And it takes study. At the very least, you have to read the Bible the whole way through. But I would even go so far as to say you need to know where the Bible comes from. You need to know who wrote it. You need to know what the earliest manuscripts that we have, what they are, what they say. You need to know which Bible versions are reliable and which ones aren't. And all of this stuff matters because as I started thinking about all of this, I started to do real, true research. I really listened to the Bible. I read it. I have the audio app with it. I listen to it. I read it. I pay attention to what it has to say. But I also do more research. I get books from the library, some of which are biased in one area and others are biased in the opposite area, and I figure out what truths I want from there. For instance, I'm going to use an example of the doctrine of the Trinity. The Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in the Trinity, and Chris's parents and Chris and his family, my fiance, they do believe in the Trinity, and that church preaches the Trinity as fact. So when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I believed it, or I believed it was not true. Didn't believe it, sorry. Because the Jehovah's Witnesses told me it wasn't true. And then when I was in Chris's church, I tried to believe that it was true. In fact, I did believe for some time that it was true because Chris's pastor's sermon was telling me that it is true. So after doing research, I got books by the likes of Bart Ehrman, who is an agnostic atheist, doesn't really believe in the Bible or the Trinity. He's biased into not believing it. And I also read Thomas Olson. He has a book called The History of Christian Theology, which talks about the Trinity at length for multiple chapters. And he does believe it, and he thinks it's a fact, and he is a devout Christian, and that it was biased towards that. So once I wade through the bullcrap of bias on both ends, I was able to glean some truth out of it and was able to base my opinion on those facts. Now, I'm not going to talk about whether or not I believe in the Trinity right now. What I want to talk about is what happened after I started doing this research. I knew I was going to start this blog because I was having some non-orthodox beliefs that they just don't match up to any really church in the area that I could go and visit. So I wanted to preach this message in a way that would make people a little less uncomfortable, and I wanted to preach this message to the world. I wanted to communicate with people who might be like-minded. But I came to realize that when I tell people what it is that I believe, things go full stop. And I'm talking about having spoken with Christians that I know and interact with on a daily basis, including some family members. The moment I start talking about some of these things, like if I try to talk about the Trinity with anybody, for instance, I'm going to use some family member as an example. He would just shut the conversation down completely, 100% done. He didn't want to talk about it, nor did really many other Christians that I speak with. And I think the reason is because it makes them very uncomfortable. It makes them uncomfortable because when I start talking about things like the Trinity, and I'm talking about Bart Ehrman's point of view, that is dissonant to what they already believe. They don't believe the same. And so one of two things usually happens. The first is that they think that I'm coming at them, like I'm coming to attack them. No, I'm not out here to attack anybody or their beliefs, unless you believe that, murder is great, then I can't be your friend, but, please don't murder me, but, I'm not out here to attack people who think the Trinity is real or not real, opposition to what I believe personally. I'm out here to discuss it, to talk about it. And all I ever have tried to do is talk about it. The other thing that happens is, the conversation could get shut down because they don't want to have a fight, or the conversation ends because they tune out. I go to talk to them about this, and the moment I bring up, the Trinity doctrine one way or the other, it doesn't matter what reasonings I give, it doesn't matter what facts I have to back this up, it doesn't matter anything that I say. After the moment I say something that disagrees with what they believe, they tune out. They stop listening. There's a cognitive dissonance. They think, well, I'm right, and I can't be wrong. So if they're coming towards me, they're coming to me with these facts, and they're talking about them, then those facts are wrong. They're just straight up wrong. She is wrong. They don't even listen to what I have to say. And I can't exactly blame people for wanting to shut conversations down, because people want a comfortable and peaceful life. I wanted that too. I wanted to be absolutely sure that I was right, and I wanted to base my life on it, and I wanted to not be challenged. But this is the thing. You can't be a Christian and live a comfortable and peaceful life. You can't be a Christian and not talk about these things. It's just, I guess it's possible, but it's not what Jesus wanted. And I say this with certainty because of the Bible. The Bible talks about going out into the world and making disciples from the nation. That wasn't just, like a suggestion. That was a command from Jesus. We are to go into the world, preach the good news of the gospel, make disciples of the nation, and baptize them in the name of the Lord. When we do this, we're going to have uncomfortable conversations with people, and we're going to have to talk with people and make these claims about Christianity, and these claims are hugely impactful. I'm talking like morality, life and death, eternity. Those kinds of things are really important things to talk about. So if you're going out and making these claims, first and foremost, the burden of proof falls on you. If you're making the claim, you are responsible for proving that it is true. You can't go around and say, well, prove me wrong. You can't do that. That's not how that works. You have to prove yourself right. The other thing is that when you make these really important claims that you hope will change people's lives for the better, you better be dang sure you're preaching the correct message and not just what the pastor tells you. When I was with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they had lots of sermons. They called them talks. They just called them talks. And they would cherry pick out scriptures that, back up what they say. When I went to my fiance's parents' church, they did the exact same thing. But they had scriptures that told different messages. Because the truth is, the Bible is contradictory. That is a fact. It contradicts itself. Now, I'm not saying that the Bible is not factual or that the things that the Bible tells you is not true. The Bible is big, it's confusing. And when I start posting videos that talk about subjects like the Trinity, heaven and hell, the law, when I start talking about those things, I'm also going to have scriptures to back up what I say. But I'm not going to say they're not cherry-picked. Of course they are. I'm not going to read the whole Bible to you to explain my point of view. That's your job. You read the Bible to understand what it says. I'm going to give you scriptures, that led me to believe one thing or another. And I'm going to explain my thought process on how this connects into the overarching story plotline that the Bible gives. But that does not mean that you should not read the Bible yourself and come to your own conclusions. So, here's the thing. People want a comfortable and peaceful life that they can't have as a Christian. I mean, even at Matthew 10:34, Christ says, "I have come not to bring peace, but to bring a sword." Some versions of the Bible translate that as a dividing rod. He goes on to say, if you are not willing to forsake a relationship with your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your child, your spouse, if you're not willing to forsake these relationships for Christ, then you are not worthy of me. That's what he says. He says you are not worthy of me. That's pretty extreme. So, when you come across a viewpoint that is oppositional, and when I say something in my blog that makes you maybe a little uncomfortable, the least you can do as a Christian is hear me out. Just listen. Just hear what I have to say. Hear what reasons I have to explain what I believe. Because I did do research, I've been to the library, and I've only really done the tip of the iceberg of what I need to do. I'm still researching. And I have changed my mind about some things back and forth, but I have changed my mind about one belief or another based on evidence that I've found doing research. So, hear me out, and when you're uncomfortable or if you hear something that just isn't exactly what you believe, I encourage you to research it for yourself. Go to the library and check out books about it. And yes, check out books like Bart Ehrman, who was, again, an agnostic atheist, or Thomas Olson. Read both sides of the coin. Understand the arguments, because when you're preaching in the world, people are gonna bring these conversations up, and you should know what you're talking about. And hey, your beliefs might be reaffirmed by my, oppositional belief. So I say something that you don't believe, so you decide to go and do research about it, and you come to the conclusion that you were right and I was wrong the whole time. Good for you. You did the research and you came up with your own opinion, and now you know, and you have the facts to back it up. And if you do find research that I haven't done that states an opinion or states a fact that I don't have, email it to me. I will extend that same respect. I will hear you out. I might not respond, and if I do, I might not respond right away, because I'm a busy person. I have a life to live, and the point is, I'm not opposed to hearing a viewpoint that's different than mine, and I pray that you will give me that same courtesy. So that is just before I even begin posting anything. I think some of the viewpoints that I have are different, and I'm not unique in feeling this way, most certainly, but I know a lot of people who have just straight up turned away. Don't do that. Okay? Give me the benefit of the doubt. And after that, I just want to say thank you for getting this far in the video, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, and see you next time.